Welcome, Xbox fans. We are incredibly excited to celebrate this International Women's Day. And as a special treat for all of you watching, we have the legendary Roberta Willaims, creator of the acclaimed King's Quest series, of the Colonel's Bequest, and the brand new Colossal Cave available today on Xbox. Roberta, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate you having me and inviting me. Thank you.
Of course. I want to dive right into some amazing questions that obviously our fans have. You revolutionized storytelling in video games with games like King's Quest, Colonel's Bequest, and many of the early titles that you and the team at Sierra worked on. Can you tell us a little bit about what inspired your approach to gaming narratives in such a groundbreaking way?
Well, now we're talking quite a long time ago, starting in 1980, which is probably way before anybody here has been born, even probably. Yeah, it started out, I was very young, early 20s, and just a new mom, and my husband, Ken Willaims, he's my partner, not just in life, but with all of our endeavors of computer game development and Sierra Online. We started it together, just the two of us. Started with my first game, Mystery House. That actually, I should say our first game, because Ken was the programmer, I was a designer and the artist. Although if you look back and look at Mystery House's art, you wouldn't be too impressed. Although you would if you were back then, because there were no other computer games at all that had graphics. And Mystery House, as bad as they were, Mystery House was the first game to actually show graphics other than pixels moving around. I mean, that
Sure.
that we had with the Atari and that kind of thing, but actual graphics. So that was the beginning of that game. But the thing that inspired me to even sit down and try to design a computer game at all was the game. It was called Adventure at the time, but then not long after, it became known as Colossal Cave. And it was a text adventure game that Ken, my husband, he was doing contract programming for a corporation in Los Angeles, California. And after his real job program, he was a programmer. And in the evening, to just get a little extra money, he was doing contract programming, and on that had the big mainframe IBM 360s, probably working on their accounting system, or something like that, because that's what they did back then. And he just decided once to get further into the hard drive of the computer, that IBM, see what else is in there. He was kind of, looking around to see what else was there.
Yeah.
And that would be kind of fun. And he found a file of games. And one of the games was something called Advent, which was short for adventure. And he also found a football game that was played with X's and O's, so it was strategy, and you could move the X's and O's around. And there was a Star Wars game that also, no, I'm sorry, Star Trek, that also basically was Invaders. It was almost like Invaders, but using Star Trek name and X's and O's, and little pixels shooting at each other, and it was that kind of thing. But he saw this one Adventure, and he knew that I was kind of stuck at home, not stuck, I shouldn't say, two little kids, and looking for something to do besides that, and said, during the day while I'm at work with my other job, why don't you play this? I was looking at it, and it's an interactive story, and where you can talk to it, so to speak, by typing in 1 or 2 word commands, and it will answer you back. And I said, what do you mean, a story? It was, because it was all in text, but it was a story to a certain extent. It wasn't
Sure.
a fully, full big story, but it had its elements. It was very much of an adventure game, very much fantasy, and very much exploration. And I got into this game just I played it on our Apple II that we had just bought for ourselves, and because Apple was selling this game called Apple's Adventure, but so was Microsoft. I don't know how many of the Microsoft people know that, but Microsoft was also selling it, and with the other name of Microsoft Adventure. So there was
Of course.
Apple Adventure and Microsoft Adventure, and then in many corporate IBM 360s or other large computer systems in corporations and universities and military installations around the country and maybe around the world. This game, Adventure or Colossal Cave, was there, and then corporate people played it when they shouldn't have been at work, but they did. So, and that's what started me. And so I always say that Will Crowther and Don Woods, they were especially Will Crowther was the original designer and programmer of Colossal Cave, inspired me.